Hi, everybody. This is Charles from GMAT Ninja. I actually want to start today's live broadcast by saying for anybody who's in India who's watching this, happy Dussehra. I know it's a big holiday. So thank you for joining us despite the holiday, anybody who's in the live group from India. So again, I'm GMAT Club's resident verbal expert. Today we're doing Quant anyway, even though I'm a verbal guy. This is series number 3 of my live videos. This video is video number 4 and our second of the Quant videos in this series. So the 4 Quant videos we're doing in this series, all word problems. Now, again, I said this at the beginning of the last one. My goal is not to be absolutely comprehensive. I can't give you every step for every single kind of word problem in 4 sessions. Not going to happen. Instead, my goal is to get you into the right mindset. So video number 1, we talked about translation. And what I meant by that is when the GMAT gives you the opportunity for a direct, clean, literal translation into a nice piece of algebra arithmetic, I want you to take that gift. So that was our focus in the first session. And I kind of baited you guys a little bit, gave you some easier questions. And then at the end, if you weren't being literal enough, I had you. So today, this session is on rate problems, age problems, and beyond. And that kind of sounds like an unholy pairing. What do rate problems and age problems have to do with anything or have to do with each other? And you'll see as we go through the broadcast, basically what I'm after here is making sure that when you pick variables, when you start setting up your algebra, are you doing it in a way that's thoughtful? And that sounds really obvious. Think about your variables, choose variables that make sense. Yeah, no kidding, dude, right? But one of the most common things I see, probably the most common issue I see on word problems with our students and with people I meet on GMAT Club is failure to really think about those variables before you put them into practice. So start reading the question, variables are flying all over the board. Do the variables mean anything? Are they the smartest variables? Are they variables that are going to actually help you solve the question? Or are they variables that are going to mess with your head later, either lead to a wrong answer or give you that moment of confusion after you're done with the algebra and go, wait, what was X again? What did X mean? Does it answer the question? So today's all about making sure that you really think first about what your variable is before you jump in. Again, sounds obvious, but I've got some problems that I think are going to be tricky even for our live crowd. And in case anybody's wondering, got some comments from the live group. Yeah, background's different. I'm actually in a different place every week because I'm running from the law, maybe. All right, let me jump right in. Let me get you guys a question. And again, for the live crowd, please, please, please don't be shy. If you get stuck, let me know. If you don't know the answer, let me know. If you're going against everybody else in the group, even better. So as soon as you have an answer to this, please pop it in the chat window. Helps me out. And away we go. Give you guys a couple minutes. Ooh, this is good. Right out of the gate, I've got 3 different answers coming out of the first half dozen or so in the live group. And again, apologies to the non-live group. Remember, film live, no second takes, no edits, no snacks, no time to drink beer if I get stressed out. Live group, don't be shy. If you're going against the grain, please let me know. That's fun for us. Means I pick something good. Oh, we're splitting down the middle. Oh, I like it. Oh, this is good. Lots of A's, lots of B's, a couple D's, I think. Okay, back to our show. It was fun last week because the feeling I got from the live group, it's like I was starting with some easy questions, kind of on purpose, because I was trying to kind of get those literal skills into place for translating word problems. And I could see people dropping off the broadcast, and new ones were filtering in. It was all good. But I think there are people with kind of advanced skills that were going, hey, this is too easy. So this question looks really easy, right? Buford received 3/10 of the votes in an election. What fraction of the other votes does Buford need? Easy, right? I mean, so again, I'm going to say something before I jump into the algebra here. This isn't about algebra fundamentalism. What I'm doing today is I'm going to solve these questions algebraically, not because it's the only solution. Key skill on the GMAT is to be flexible. If you see a better way that isn't algebraic, absolutely, I want you to do that. For today's session, that's not my point. I'm trying to get at, if you are using variables to solve a question, are you being thoughtful about it? You could pick numbers here. That's totally acceptable. I'm not going to get into that. That's a totally different session. For now, easy to translate this, right? So Buford received 3/10 of the votes. What fraction of the other votes does he need to get to half the votes? Easy, no problem, right? So we just subtract 3/10 from the 1/2. So 5/10 minus 3/10, easy. 2/10, so x equals 2/10. That's a fifth. No problem, right? I gotcha, if that's what you picked. Of the other votes are needed. So notice what the problem is here. So one way to think about this is I wasn't very thoughtful in picking x and thinking about what does that variable really mean. 3/10 of the votes of the total votes, right? 3/10 of the total, 1/2 of the total. What we want here isn't the fraction of the total. What we want is fraction of the other votes. So one way to think about this, if you're going to do the algebra, is to say, well, all right, 3/10 of the votes are already gone. Buford already got 3/10. So how many other votes are there? If you're expressing it as a fraction, 7/10. So now if we're thoughtful about this, what does x mean? X is the fraction not of the total. X is the fraction of the other votes. Aha. So now what we have is 7/10 x equals, I'll keep the same 2/10 over here, and you get 2/7. Easy question, right? But again, it's just one of my favorites to kind of underscore that idea that if you're being kind of too automatic with the variable, yeah, I tossed in the x, no problem. I did some subtraction, easy. GMAT's going to make you think a little bit, going to give you the opportunity to trip over your own foot. Just make sure you're really paying attention to that language closely and thinking about, what does my variable really mean? The way I wrote it originally, it seems to imply fraction of total, not what I want. I want fraction of the other votes. All right, that's your warm up. Here, have another question. It's cool getting some nice mix of D's and E's. It looks like at a live group. Don't be shy if you want to go against the grain. Don't say any takers for F yet for my stupid joke. If you don't know who Kanye is, you won't find it funny. Maybe if you know who Kanye is, you won't find it funny. Kanye wouldn't find it funny. And for the record, I am a fan. Phenomenal artist. All right. Okay, so this one's still a little bit of a warm up on the age questions. I just want to talk about a few mistakes I see with remarkable frequency from our incoming students who might struggle in these kind of problems. Again, our live group did pretty well on this. One silly thing you could do, it's like you could hesitate, you could just kind of jump in right away, and Kanye and Chloe both start with K, so maybe you make the silly error, at least initially. I think everyone's going to catch that at some point, but you're wasting time if you kind of go blindly and you kind of go brain dead and you just start sticking Ks in there. Obviously, this makes no sense. I mean, it does on one hand. Kanye is 6 years older than Chloe. We're using the same variable to express two different things. Bad. And I think most of you are probably going, oh no, I would never do that. But I see this with remarkable frequency on different problems out of our students. What about this one? Okay, now we've got L is Chloe and K is Kanye. Okay, fine. First equation, Kanye is 6 years older than Chloe. Fine. 12 years ago, Kanye, so Kanye's age minus 12 is equal to twice Chloe's age minus 12. And hopefully you're catching the error that if we do that, we're missing the parentheses because it's twice Chloe's age in that year. Okay, so not super tough, and I think most of the live groups set it up this way, but I want to talk about like how can you make sure you don't make that mistake? How can you add a little bit of systematicness on these age problems just to make sure you don't make that error? And I'm sure most people, if you've watched it in my broadcast before, you know that what's the worst thing that could happen to you on an adaptive test? If you miss easy questions, you're screwed. Miss all the hard ones you want to. If you miss stuff that's easy, you never see the harder ones. That's where the test comes along and knocks your head off in terms of the score. The most common type of post on GMAT Club and the shared GMAT experience forum. Hey, I don't know what happened. My score dropped. I was getting 49s on my practice test. I took the real thing. I got a 42 on the quant. What happened? Sloppy errors, guarantee it. So simple thing you can do on these questions, just take a moment and define your variables. That's it. Does it cost you anything? It's going to remove the possibility you do this, or God forbid you do that. So Kanye now is K. Chloe now is L. What's Kanye 12 years ago? K minus 12. Chloe now, L minus 12. No big deal. Looks really basic. Looks really simple. How long did it take me? 12 seconds. And if I do this first, I'm much more likely to get to the right thing. And then pretty straightforward from here. L plus 6, punch that on in there. L plus 6 minus 12 equals 2L minus 24. Simplify, we're going to get L equals 18, I believe. Add 6 back on to get Kanye's age, 24. Sometimes he acts like he's 12. All right. Let's make these a little bit harder. So I'm going to jump into some rate questions. This is kind of a warm up on the rates, just to get you guys kind of back into the mode of thinking about work rate time. And I'm going to have a lot more funky things to say about rates on the second, third, and fourth questions. But go ahead and take a moment on this guy. Very nice. Live group seems to be smoking this one. If you're stumped a little bit, please let us know. It's good to hear. First dozen or so people look pretty confident. If you're going against the grain, love to see it. Don't be shy. Nobody's going to judge, and if we do, it's going to be judging positively. Give you about 20 more seconds. If you're stumped, please tell me. Thank you. Thank you. Some stumped is coming in. Because otherwise, I assume that it's an easy question for everybody, and I'll race through. Remember, I'm used to teaching people one-on-one, so I get constant feedback. A little weird for me to talk to a camera and just have a little text screen. Interesting. Okay. Seems like the live group's pretty quiet. So not sure if that means that more people are stumped. Thank you so much to the folks who are admitting they're stumped. Okay. So warm-up rate problem. All I'm really looking for here is, this is going to sound really silly too. One of the most common mistakes I see on rate problems, there's a ton of kind of gimmicky stuff out there. And I don't want to pick on any particular test prep company, but sometimes I see these sort of, well, on this kind of rate question, you do this little trick, right? You do that little trick. And it's like, well, fundamentally, hey, you can study the living crap out of 12 different kinds of rate questions, memorize the steps, memorize the trick, memorize the gimmick, and then you're going to see version number 13 on your exam. There's really no substitute, especially if you're shooting for an elite score. What you really want is to make sure that you really understand the basics. You really have yourself anchored in a really healthy way in that basic equation. Don't think of this as an equation you need to memorize or a formula you memorize. It's just kind of the basic definition of what a rate is. What's a rate? Well, you take the rate, you multiply it by the time, you get the work. This is something you think about every day. Hey, you've got, 10 memos to write at work and you're writing 2 an hour. It's going to take you 5 hours. Hey, you're walking to work. You walk at a pace of 5 miles per hour. That's pretty fast, but we'll go with it. And work is 20 miles away. It's a heck of a commute. Okay, 4 hours, right? Basic relationship. You do this all the time. But it's a funny thing that happens on the GMAT. I see people kind of read the question and again, variables start flying and they don't take the moment to go, right, what am I setting up? What's a rate? What's a time? Fine. And somebody just pointed out in the live group, absolutely correct. Distance is just a unit of work, right? And you can think of it this way. How much work is your car doing? Well, it's the amount of distance it travels. So interchangeable, distance equals rate times time, or work equals rate times time. In this case, okay, what do we have? Well, we have the rate on the way there. That's given 80 kilometers per hour. We have the rate on the way back, 70 kilometers per hour. Okay, key to this one is thinking about the distance a little bit. What's the distance? I don't know. That's the point. That's what we're solving for. But the key is to make sure you acknowledge that the distance is the same. Let's call it D. It doesn't really matter what that variable is, as long as it's the same for both. And now we're in business. Half hour longer on the way back. So I'm interested in the time, let's say, to get there. Let's call that T. Well, to get back, it's going to be longer. So T plus a half. And we're in business. 2 equations, 2 variables. I like your chances. 80t equals 70t plus 35. 10t equals 35. T equals 3.5 hours. All you have to do is punch that back in. 3.5 times 80. That should get you 280. And there's your answer. Okay, let's punch this up a notch. So this next one is kind of a basic, when you have 2 different things working together. We covered some of these in a broadcast a year or 2 ago. So here's a nice warm up. 10 points for anybody watching live who knows what a pupusa is. Has nothing to do with the question, but I really like pupusas. All right, I'll shut up. All right, getting lots of Ds from the live group. Not seeing a whole lot of disagreement. Cool. And in case anybody's wondering, and the live group, I think, is mostly in Asia, given the time of day we're doing this. Pupusas are Central American. Somebody said something about it's like a Costa Rican samosa. You're on the right track. Salvadoran, Nicaraguan, Central American. It's kind of a corn pocket that's stuffed with awesomeness. Phenomenal. If you ever find a Salvadoran restaurant or a Nicaraguan restaurant or something like that anywhere, get pupusas. Great pupusas are one of the best things on earth. Right there on my list with bindi masala. All right. Machine A can produce one order pupusas in 9 hours. Machine B produces one order in 5 hours. I think the live group had no trouble here. The fundamental thing you want to think about when things are working together, whatever they might be doing, producing pupusas, filling a pool, painting a fence, whatever it is, you're always going to add rates. Sometimes there's the instinct to add times or add work. Very, very rare that there's any good reason to do that. One thing I just want you to think about, take a breath before you start that rate question, take a breath before you jump in and say, all right, things are working together. Let me get to the rates. Let me take those rates, add them together. So machine A can do one order in 9 hours. The work is 1. The time is 9. The rate must be 1/9. Really exciting. Machine B, one order, 5 hours. What's your rate? 1/5. Working together. Gonna add up these puppies. That's great. 1/9 plus 1/5, I believe, is going to be 14/45. And we're still just producing one order, right? So all I have to do is solve that. I was nice. We just have one order. It makes the math a little bit easier. So all we have to do is just take that reciprocal. So the time is 45/14. A little bit north of 3. It's really all I need to know. 3 point blah, blah. And that's enough to get you the right answer in this case. Okay. So far, mostly working on the fundamentals. Just thinking, okay, a little reminder of how rate problems work. You want to anchor yourself in this lovely little definition of a rate. You want to be thoughtful about your variables. If things are working together, you're going to add their rates. Straightforward so far. And let's do a little bit more. Ooh, this is fun. Got some B's, got some E's. Interesting. Okay. So it seems like we're splitting right down the middle with some B's and some E's. Any takers for A, C, D? Anyone? Anybody stumped? Let me know. Anybody stumped? Going once? Going twice. All right. Okay. So I this kind of question I see so many different varieties of mistakes. I have no prayer of getting through them all without putting you all to sleep. But there's so many different ways to goof up the variables here. And I'll go through one really, really simple one. I think most of you are probably recognizing, hey, especially off of the warm-up questions we just did, hey, things are working together. I'm going to add their rates. That's cool. So I'm going to add their rates. What's their combined rate? That's basically given to us. 6 hours to fill a tank. That tank is my belly, needs to be filled with pupusas. So what's your rate? Well, it's one tank, 6 hours. So your combined rate better be a sixth. So what we're saying is whatever we put here plus whatever we put here is going to give us a sixth. And if we're thoughtful about this part of it, if you take that moment, a lot of what the GMAT's about, take a breath in the right places, think a little bit about what you're going to do before you do it. If you just barrel in, you're going to start making errors. So one thing I see here quite a bit is they'll say S plus M equals 1/6. That's not wrong exactly, but it can lead to trouble. Here's why. So what I'll usually say to my students when they do this, I'm like, well, yeah, I have S plus M equals 1/6. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. What does S mean? And they say, well, it's the small pub. I'm like, well, small pub's what? That's not a number, right? That's not a quantity. If you're going to pick S as a variable, what happens when you get to the end of the question and you've solved for S and you go, well, wait, what was S? Was S time, rate, work, something else? I don't know. So you want to be nice to yourself and pick variables that are going to be a little bit more intuitive. And again, there's all kinds of ways to make this inefficient. Here's what I would do. These are rates. I want to be nice to my future self. I want to be nice to myself 2 minutes from now when I'm trying to figure out what the heck I meant at the beginning. So if it's a rate, I'm going to call it a rate. If I need to identify that it's small, I'm going to put a little subscript there. Nothing too fancy. But again, if you don't take that 10, 15, 20 seconds to breathe and go, what's going to be nice to my future self? You can cause trouble for yourself. Okay, well, this is the rate for the large guy. Cool. Great. Well, the small one takes twice as long as the large one. So we got one equation here. RS plus RL equals 1/6. Small one takes twice as long as the large one. So easy enough for us to kind of take these rates and kind of put them in terms of each other. Again, plenty of different ways to do this from here. But we could do this and say the rate of the small one is twice the rate of the large one. And now, again, this is one of those moments. So we dealt with this a little bit last time on some of those ratio questions in particular. Whenever you've got something like this, just take a moment and go, does this make logical sense? And this is all about just making sure you're thinking about size, thinking about quantity, thinking intuitively a little bit. Is the rate of the second one really twice the rate of the large one? Doesn't make any sense. The rate's going to be half as much, right? So we have this backwards. Okay, and then from there, it's really, really easy. So we can punch this in. 3 times the rate of the small one gives you a sixth. Rate of the small one's 1/18. So how long is it going to take the small one to produce or to fill one tank? Fill my belly once with pupusas. It's going to take about 18 hours. Okay, so answer is E. That was fun. Let's do another. I think I got one more rate question in me, and then we're going to generalize this to word problems in general. I want you to take these skills and apply them elsewhere. One thing I say to my students a lot, I spend more time on rate questions than I think they might be worth in a sense. So there's not that many of them on the GMAT, but I think a lot of these skills translate really, really well to the broader world of GMAT word problems. So take a minute if you get stuck. It's data sufficiency. If you get stuck, please let me know. Cool, starting to see a nice mix of A and D. Any takers for B or C or E? Anybody stumped, please let me know. Again, a lot of how I go through the problem is going to be based on feedback from the live group with apologies to the non-live group. So help your brothers and sisters out. Tell me how you're doing. We have about a dozen responses, so makes me think you guys are being shy. If you disagree with the rest of the crew, let me know. Awesome. Thank you, Priyam. Okay, good. We got some B's mixed in there now, A's and B's and D's. Love it. Okay. So again, this is a good example of kind of taking those fundamentals. There's another video that we did, a couple of videos, I think, last year about kind of how to handle data sufficiency in general. One of the things I talked about a lot in those videos is you always want to push that question, do everything humanly possible to process that question. If there's an equivalent way to rewrite the question, you want to do that. I don't know why they do this. I have no idea why this is a design feature of the GMAT. Very, very obvious to me that that is a design feature. Plenty of questions out there where all the actions in the question, once you get through that, once you invest really heavily here, do everything humanly possible, then all of a sudden your answer choices are super, super easy to deal with. Why? Don't know. Why does that matter for your business school career? Don't know, but it does. So let's play with this a little bit. What are we saying? Again, if you're being sharp about how you set up those variables right from the start, makes this a lot easier. 3 machines working together, complete a task in 24 minutes. Machines working together are always going to add their rates. So we can say rate of K plus rate of P plus rate of M. What's their combined rate? Well, 124 tasks per minute. Now notice what this question is asking you for is the time of K to produce, to do one task. Okay, but let's think about that. Well, if it's only one task, if we know that the work is just one, then what we can do here is say, well, equivalent. If I get the rate of K, I'm in business, right? That's all I need. I need the rate of K. Okay, well, we've got this nice, pretty little equation with the rate of K. So what do I really need? If I can get those two rates added together, the rate of P and M, that's all I need. Now, if you follow this process, this is a super, super, super easy question. You actually don't even have to do any calculation because it doesn't matter. It's data sufficiency. You don't need to calculate anything. So right here, we know that the combined rate of M and P is 1/36. That's it. It's basically given to us in that first statement, right? So there we go. It's got to be A or D. What's this one giving us? Well, it's giving us the idea that the rate of K plus the rate of P is going to be 1/48. Not helpful. That's going to give you the rate of M if you wanted it, but by itself, it's not going to give you the rate of K. No way to separate it from that rate of P. So answer's A. Okay, I think that's it for my rate questions. And again, I want to take kind of these basic ideas. And remember, I'm not trying to be comprehensive with the rates lesson today. Lots of other great people are out there doing that. I've been hearing great things lately. GMAT Club Partner, Target Test Prep. A lot of students are coming to me for verbal and saying that they love what those guys are doing. So shout out to those guys. So there's lots of people out there being really comprehensive with the rates. Not my goal for today. I just want to get your mind right in terms of how you think about variables, how you invest time up front to kind of avoid those careless errors, avoid those inefficiencies, because you're setting up the problem carefully, thoughtfully, flexibly right from the start. So now we're going to take some of this stuff. And unless I forgot a rate question that's in my slides, we're going to take these same ideas and apply it to general word problems. There we go. Here's a nice straightforward one. Go ahead and take a minute. Love it. We got some B's, got some D's. We even have 2 retractions. I don't even know you could do that. So don't be shy. Don't retract your messages. Be vulnerable. Let me know if you're having struggles. Feel free to post an update. And if you're stumped again, let us know, please. Okay, I think that's enough. All right. Look, again, this is another one of those questions where you could do this intuitively. You don't necessarily need algebra here. Part of what I'm trying to get at, again, is having flexibility in your algebra skills, having some thoughtfulness, having some depth to it, thinking about your variables before you start tossing at stuff. I imagine that some of the people who are getting the right answer did this without any algebra at all. Wonderful, totally cool. I'm not saying algebra is the best solution. Just saying that if you're going to use algebra, let's get you thinking carefully. So this is one path I see people taking, where they say, okay, well, 3 plus, one for $1, $3 for that first mile, $1 for each additional half mile. So X is the additional half mile, and you get 25. This isn't wrong. You can do this. You're going to get that X equals 22. And that's okay. Now, it's not the right answer because this is answering a different question. This, again, is a problem of defining your variable. It's what we've been talking about in a lot of these rate questions. If you're going to do it this way, or better still, whenever you pop a variable in, you should be able to state pretty clearly what does that variable mean, or else you just have diarrhea of variables on the page, going to cause you trouble some of the time, especially under time pressure. What does it mean here? Well, I guess X means each additional half mile. That's cool. You can do that. That's totally fine. You can do it. But then you still have to backtrack and go, oh, wait, what does that mean? So, and then it starts to get a little bit confusing. Not a great solution path. You could do it. Here, similar idea. You could say, well, 3 plus half times X. That's an autopilot kind of thing you would do. Gets you a totally batty answer. I don't think anybody in the live group picked. Now we're getting a little bit warmer. So what does X mean here? I guess it's each additional half mile. In that case, I'm not sure why we're multiplying it by a half. This is pretty much a non-starter. You're going to get, I think, E in this case. What about this? Now we're getting better, a little bit more thoughtful. I imagine that some of the live group picked this or went down this road in some form. $3 for the first mile. What does each additional mile cost you? Each additional mile costs you $2 because it's $1 per half mile. Now we're getting intuitive. This is cool. So X is each additional mile. Cool. This works. You can go ahead and solve for this. So 2X equals 22. X equals 11. The only problem with this is you still have to remember that there's that first mile. So your answer is going to be 12. And that's totally cool. Now you see all kinds of questions like this. Some of them ask you for an algebraic expression. Could you put up an equation where your variable means exactly what you mean? You could. Again, on this question, maybe you don't need to, but it's a skill that's absolutely worth having for other GMAT questions. What if instead of this, what if I define X as the total miles traveled? Great, then I can do this. So there's that 3 that's always going to be there. And now what we're saying is X is the total miles traveled minus that first mile is the miles traveled at $2 per mile. Solve this for X. There you go. So what I'm after here, again, plenty of people are pointing out in the live group, there's all sorts of other intuitive ways to do this. You can just kind of subtract, divide, think through it a little bit. Totally great. There are questions out there where you need the algebra. And what I'm just trying to push on you guys is the idea that think about your variable. If you're going to do algebra, define that variable thoughtfully before you jump in. Is it okay to define it as each additional half mile? You can do that. Just make sure you're explicit so you don't make a mistake with it. Could it be each additional mile? Totally fine. If you're going to do that, be explicit with it. If it's a total miles, totally cool. Any of these will get you to the right answer. We can argue that some will do so more elegantly than others, but the most important thing, you put a variable on your page, also put on your page, what does that variable actually mean? That's what prevents you from those silly errors that can knock your head off. Okay, I think I've got 2 or 3 more. And Beelzebub's doing some reading. Feel the gears grinding. A couple minutes in already. Only 2 responses from the live group, and they contradict each other. Thank you, Abhishek. Really appreciate the honesty. And again, tell me if you're stumped. Doesn't make me happy to see you suffer, but makes me happy to know what's actually going on out there. And if you're stumped, you're not alone, because I've only got 3 answers from the live group. Oh, this is good. Still only up to 7. That's awesome. So if you're watching this not live and you're struggling, you probably very badly want to put me on mute at this point. But you're not alone. Okay, let's put you guys out of your misery. Okay. Video 2 in the word problem bootcamp here, right? So first one, all about kind of how do you sort of leverage these skills? Look at me sounding like a business school guy. Leverage those skills of direct translation when they're given to you, right? Second video, think thoughtfully about your variables. This is the Department of Redundancy department. So be thoughtful with your variables. If you're going to put a variable out there, make sure you're thinking through it first. Sounds really dumb, sounds really obvious. I guarantee that almost everybody watching has made the mistake of, hey, I just started writing equations when I saw a word question. And then all of a sudden you're stuck, right? So invest that time up front. Make sure that your variables make sense to you. Make sure that when there's the opportunity to direct translate, you take advantage of it. In this case, we got a hybrid of those 2 things. If you use those 2 skills well, this question that apparently is pretty tough for the group certainly has been tough for my students. See a lot of mistakes on this is out of the official guide. So one of the things that we had an example last week that was, I think it came out to beer equals beer. And if you kind of thought about it that way, it unlocked the whole question for you. Same idea here. Well, we have to have something like this happen, right? The number of pages has to somehow equal the number of pages. We've got the plan. I'm going to read 90 pages a day. I've got reality, read 75 pages a day. And then there's still another 690 pages left for the remaining 6 days. It's okay. The book's still the same, right? So this reading assignment's the same length no matter what. The plan has to equal the reality. So plan pages has to equal the pages that are sort of coming at this reader in reality, Beelzebub. Okay, so let's deal with the plan first. Let's let D be the total number of days for the assignment, which is exactly what we want. It's what the question's asking for. Cool. So what was the plan? Well, it was 90 pages for every day of the assignment. Fine. What about reality? What actually happened? Here's the tricky part. Well, 75 pages a day. You could just do this, and you're in trouble. That'll lead to one of the trap answers. Because notice that's the total number of days to complete the assignment. Beelzebub did not read 75 pages a day for that entire thing. It was 6 fewer days that Beelzebub spent at 75 pages per day. So a little tweak to this. Let's get that D minus 6 in there. Plus 690, we're in business now. One equation, one variable. I like our chances. So we got 15D equals whatever 6 times 75 is. We got 690 minus, stop me if I do something dumb. Although I can't hear any of you, so maybe you won't be able to stop me. 15D equals 240. D equals 240 divided by 15. By the way, if you're struggling with any of this math, like, don't be a hero. Break stuff down in small bits. Canceling fractions, good for you. Take small steps. Don't take big steps. I don't want to see long division here. I'm just going to divide top and bottom by 3. Gets me 80 over 5. Gets me 16 days. If you're feeling skittish, you can punch it back in. 16 times 90, is that equal to 10 times 75 plus 690? Yeah, you bet. Okay, that was fun. I got, I think, 2 more. I think this one's a little easier than the last one. But again, I promise, same skills exactly. I'm getting absolutely nothing from the live group, even though the audience is growing a little bit. Oh, good. We finally have one. I was wondering if YouTube had a meltdown or something. Don't be shy. And again, if you're stumped on this, please let me know. Don't have a timer, but I think we're well past the 2-minute mark. I only have 4 answers from the live group. So whether you're watching this live or not, and you're struggling, once again, you're not alone. Give us a couple more minutes. Please let me know if you're stumped. Cool. I think what we're seeing on this one, and this is about what I'd expect. Thank you, Abhijit. Okay. I think what's happening here, so this is one of those questions where I think once you get it, it's not hard, right? I mean, there's nothing difficult fundamentally about this math. The numbers aren't that bad, but it's really, really easy to be stumped. How do you get yourself unstuck? And then once you do get yourself unstuck, how do you make sure you set it up in a way that's intuitive? Check your variables. Again, same 2 skills we've been talking about, just applied in a different context. Same skills you need really badly on rate questions, applied in a different context. See if there's something you can translate directly. See if you can think intuitively about what's that equivalence we can set up. Alcohol equals alcohol was one we had last week. We just had pages equals pages. I want to know about gallons. Let me try going down this road. Very, very exciting. This is the deepest thought you're going to see all day. Gallons equals gallons. Yeah, thanks, Ninja Guy. You're smart. Okay, now all I have to do is really think about like what variables can we define here. I think if I'm interested in gallons, if that's what I'm being asked for, well, I guess I can take this these miles per tank. How do I get to gallons from that? Well, I take the miles per tank. So on the highway, for example, I can take that miles per tank and divide it by the miles per gallon. And by the way, I have no problem with using a variable that's more complex than just one letter. Why is that acceptable to me? Look, it keeps my intuition in check. I'm not going to forget what that is. Like, I know exactly what it is. It's miles per gallon. Fine. All right. So there's the number of gallons in the tank when you drive on this in the highway, right? 462 miles divided by the gas mileage. You get the amount of gallons in the tank driving on the highway. Well, it's got to be the same idea as, I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to do. I actually meant to stick gallons here. Let's divide that by the gallons. That's going to give us the MPG. My bad. So miles per gallon is going to give you miles per gallon. So we take that 462 divided by the size of the tank, G, great. In the city, 336 miles divided by the size of the tank, you get that miles per gallon. And now we know that it's 6 fewer than on the highway. So we can subtract 6 from here. Hopefully you're catching the mistake. Take that moment whenever you're adding, subtracting, multiplying, same thing we saw in that Kanye and Chloe problem. Really, really easy to go autopilot here and say, well, here's my miles per gallon highway. Here's my miles per gallon city. Subtract 6, cool, except this is the smaller number. We're not going to subtract 6 from that. We're going to add 6 to it. And that's it. Now it's really, really easy. If you start with that miles per gallon equals the miles per gallon. Here's your miles per gallon highway. Here's your miles per gallon city. We know in the city it's 6 fewer than on the highway. Great. All we have to do is multiply out. 462 equals 336 plus 6 times the number of gallons in the tank. Subtract 126 is equal to 6 times the number of gallons in the tank. And you divide and you got it. And that's that. Okay. One last question. One last age question. We'll call it a day. And yeah, my bad. Quick correction there. Yes. So sorry, I just went back to the previous question because I was answering the wrong question. I didn't have it in front of me. I apologize. So yes, what I solved for was the number of gallons. Easy enough to get the question was actually asking for the miles per gallon in the city. Easy enough to take that 336 divided by the size of the tank, and that's going to give you 16, I believe. So thank you so much, live crowd, for catching that. Pretty difficult question for anybody who's wondering. Again, I see a lot of mistakes on that one. It's an old question, official question. I see a lot of mistakes on it. And again, just a reminder for anybody watching this, I do this live, so you get to see my mistakes too. I answered the wrong question. Don't do that on your test. I have a lame excuse. I didn't have a question in front of me, but that's a really lame excuse. All right, back to number 10. Last question, I'll set you guys free. And again, thank you to the live crowd for setting me straight. Interesting mix of C's and D's. Seen a lot of speed on this one, but we're right down the center. Cool. Give you a hint. Some of you guys are making the same mistake I made on the last one. I answered the wrong question. And I get to do that nice hypocritical teacher thing or nice hypocritical parent thing. Do as I say, not as I do. Read that question one more time. Okay. Classic old question. I think appeared in the 11th edition of the GMAT official guide. We probably have people watching who were not born when this question was released. That makes me feel old. Let's talk about how old Doris and Fred are. Again, on these age problems, take the 15 seconds, 20 seconds, define your variables thoughtfully. Doesn't take you much time, doesn't require much pain. How old's Doris now? D, good for Doris. How old's Fred now? F, good for Fred. What's our question asking us? We want Fred's age in Y years. Okay. There's F plus Y, there's D plus Y. This is the thing I want. And I think the error from virtually everybody in the live crowd, we had about 50-50 C and D here. I think the people who chose the wrong thing, I think solved for F and not for F plus Y. I think that was the mistake for nearly everybody. So again, just underscoring the importance of taking that extra 10 seconds, 15 seconds to find your variables. Be thoughtful there. Doesn't take long, but that saves you a ton of trouble down the road. Okay, now from here, it's actually pretty straightforward. So sum of Doris and Fred's age is Y years, D plus F equals Y. Very nice. Doris is 12 years older than Fred. Doris equals Fred plus 12. I'm always going to double check that. Which one's the bigger number? Doris, bigger, add to Fred. Cool, I didn't screw that up. All right, well, I want F plus Y. So all I got to do here is I need to get the D's out of here somehow. That's not too hard to do. I can just take this, punch it in here. So we get 2F plus 12 equals Y. All right, well, my answer choices are all going to be in terms of Y. So I want F out of here. So I'm going to solve for F first. What do we get? Well, we get 2F equals Y minus 12. So F equals Y over 2 minus 6. That's one of your answer choices. I think that's C, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have it in front of me. If that's what you chose, again, failure to define your variable thoughtfully. Failure to define what you want thoughtfully. That's where the error came in. To get F plus Y, well, we got to add Y to both sides. So that's going to be Y over 2 plus Y minus the 6. And that gives you 3Y over 2 plus 6. All right. That's it for today. We're over the hour mark, and I'm guessing people are falling asleep. So friendly reminder, Thursday, special live session, Cornell Admissions Committee folks. I'm a big fan of what they do up there in Ithaca. Last week's broadcasts actually were from Ithaca. Wonderful, wonderful school, wonderful program. That's going to be this Thursday, October 10th, I believe. If I'm not mistaken, that's 9 a.m. I'm sorry, 8 a.m. Pacific here in the US, 11 a.m. Eastern time, Thursday, October 10th. If you're watching this and it's no longer 2019, no problem. It's going to be up on our YouTube page forever and ever. Check that out. I will be here for the next 3 Fridays, verbal sessions, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. That's 9 o'clock p.m. in India, I believe. And the next 2 Tuesdays, same time, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 9 o'clock p.m. India. 2 more word problem boot camps. Next week, we're going to cover problems that are really weird and long. Because I'd say kind of alongside this business of variable translation, what's the other big picture thing people really, really struggle with is you look at a really long question, get intimidated. You look at a weird question, get intimidated. I've never seen that symbol before. The GMAT's after a certain thing. We're going to talk about that. Try to get your mindset right when you see something that's long, intimidating, hard looking, bizarre looking, all about getting your mind right. That's next Tuesday. So that is the 15th of October, 8:30 a.m. Pacific. And the following week, we'll do one last word problem boot camp, number 4 in the word problem series. That's going to be on counting sets series, which is one of those mysterious categories that shows up on your ESR. Going to try to demystify what they mean by that as best we can. Give you some tools for dealing with them. Okay, that's it. I'm Charles, GMAT Ninja, GMAT Club. Come see us on the forums. Tag us if you have questions. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.